spotlight. No, we should be down to 3 screens. Back to 3 screens, right? Perfect. So, okay, again, like big thanks for joining. Rum is probably one of the most misunderstood spirits that we actually have here in Ireland. If we go outside of Ireland, it's immense, right? There is as many rums as there probably are whiskies, and it's one that we find quite interesting, and it's one over the last 6 months that we've kind of engaged a lot with, and we've been looking into quite a lot. So when we kind of reached out, we knew that Mr. Keith Piggott, who has joined us, likes rum. He's told us. Keith is chef extraordinaire. Everyone will probably know him from Pigtown Festival, Perry One Hotel, the Slovenian. It's a Slovenian festival or Slovenian food festival this weekend with Perry One. Do you want to say?
Trip to Slovenia.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So it's absolutely fantastic, and I know that a couple of our customers here are actually doing it. And then we had someone else lined up, and unfortunately they had to work this evening. And to be fair, out of nowhere, Anna came to our rescue, right? Complete and utter rescue. And like, not only did Anna come to rescue us tonight, but Anna gave us chocolate, right? Lovely. Raw chocolate, right? It's not bribery. This is fantastic stuff, right? So we got the raw chocolate. You want to raw.ie and order chocolate, right? Yeah. Now, I'm gonna say, right, Anna, we've had your chocolate before, right? And to be fair, I looked up your kind of story today, and I was amazed, right? Head chocolate here and Adair Manor and all this good stuff, entrepreneur, right? And the one thing I will say, right, eating chocolate before a tasting is never good.
No.
Because I'm here eating crackers because all I can taste is chocolate, right? So, but it's absolutely delicious, right? So I just want to say a huge thank you from ourselves and everyone in Mother Max for joining us in. Like we always say, right, this is about responsible consumption of alcohol. It's not about irresponsible consumption of alcohol, but you are all adults, right? We only recommend, right, you got 50 mils, you got one of those bottles. You win on that. Got one of those bottles, there's 50 mils in it. We don't recommend drinking all of it in a session, right? So 15 mils, which is a third of it, which is basically to the bottom of the label, the white label is roughly a third of it. That is sufficient for tasting. After that, keep the rest and enjoy it later. Now, if you want to drink it, totally up to yourself. As I said, you're all adults on the call and you can make that decision yourselves. But we endorse responsible consumption and sale of alcohol. Okay, let's get into the business part of it, right? So if you want to open up your pack, I hope you've got it done, and we're going to start with blind sample number 1. And you want to pour that into the glass, and we're going to follow, I suppose, a kind of defined pattern. We're going to nose it, taste it, discuss it. If that's okay. It seemed to work well with the whiskey. I'm going to say I probably think Keith and Anna will probably have a completely unique take on all of these. Both being chefs, their palates are probably very, very well versed in terms of taste, but also, I mean, like in terms of Anna with the chocolate, rums are sweet anyway. So this is going to be really interesting to see where you go with this, right? Okay, so we go with number 1, right? Now someone's asking, would we say ice is good to use? Aaron, it is your rum. You drink it however you want, right? Just the one thing I will say is that I like to smell it and I like to taste it first. Then I make a decision about whether I want to add something else to it. The only reason is adding the ice into it does 2 slight things. It brings the temperature down, and we don't taste cold things as well as room temperature. And then the second thing is it actually dilutes it down a little bit. Now that little bit of water does help sometimes, right? So, but I would say try it first. If you want to have ice in it, have ice in it. If you want to have water in it, have water in it. And as someone said to me yesterday, would I mind if they put Coca-Cola into it? It's yours. Do with as you wish, right? So we're going to start with the first one. Rums are really interesting, right? Because all rums have kind of certain commonalities, right? They all come from sugarcane, in essence. Now, whether it be the sugarcane juice, the mulched sugarcane, which is used to produce a kind of a sugarcane honey, or the molasses, which is kind of left over, right? What you'll see across all your rums here, they're all darkened rums, right? But I'm slow to call them dark rums, even though the style says they are, right? And the reason why I say it is, in Ireland, when we say dark rum, we think of Sea Dog, that black, molassesy kind of, I don't want to say tar, but viscous liquid, right? And it's not necessarily, dark rums aren't necessarily that, right? So we give it an aroma. Keith, do you wanna start?
I'm getting the caramelization on the nose.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's diluted, so it's not a very strong caramelization.
Would you go as far as to say almost like a caramelized banana?
No, I'm not even. I actually find it quite weak. I don't know what it is. I just.
No, you're right. But there's something.
It's actually.
A kind of a brown. I think it's a brown sugar. I'm getting a brown sugar.
Yeah, it's the caramelization of the brown. Like you can get that caramelized brown sugar from it, but it's still quite weak, compared to other rums. And it's kind of dominant in that. Like I'm not getting. I'm not getting any specific kind of aroma to it other than that kind of brown sugar, caramelized brown sugar kind of buzz to it.
Ian Collins is saying a little bit nutty, or almonds. Yeah, I get a little bit of nuttiness. Yeah. And what do you think?
I think I have a stronger nose than I do taste. I can really smell oranges off it. It smells really light. I'm not an expert on rum, but this smells really orangey to me.
But that's why you're here, because we want to know there's no point being an expert. Like I'm getting a vanilla. Definitely getting a vanilla taste off or aroma off it. I'm getting kind of a spice as well.
Yeah, definitely a vanilla and an orange. Yeah.
Yeah.
It tastes very light. I mean, like if I were to say something like with chocolate, I would definitely have this with a milk chocolate would go well with it.
Soft brown sugar. I'm going to throw something out here, right? And just as a we'll see what people think of it. There's kind of a funkiness in the background. I think, Keith, this is what you were kind of picking up on, right? So that the caramelization is kind of light on it, but there's something else sitting in the back of it. And I wonder, right? Because they use molasses in rum. Is it kind of like a little bit of? Are we getting a little bit of molasses coming through? A little bit of funkiness from that?
I'm just getting a dominance of the brown sugar. I'm not for this one. I'm not picking up anything strong other than that caramelization.
We're still on rum one, Liam. Yeah. Okay. Let's taste it, because the tasting is the fun part of it. Now I'm going to go to the two chefs first, because this is what you do every day. Who wants to start?
I'm still stuck on the orange and vanilla. I can't. It's really light. Like it's really fruity and light.
Did you say creamy?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, light and fruity. I think that's just really fruity. It's It does. I can, when you say molasses, I can definitely, like, there's a depth with the brown sugar that I can pick up on.
You're definitely getting a spice off it as well on the taste, on the tongue. It's a bit spicy. I'm getting a bit of biscuit.
I'm getting a bit of smokiness to it as well.
Yeah. There's a. I'm getting a bit of. I'm actually getting. If we were tasting whiskey, I'd be saying there's a slight oakiness to it, like that slight kind of bitter burnt oakiness to it. You know.
Yeah, that's why I actually. to me, the flavor profile of it is almost more like if it wasn't sweet, I'd find that to be very whiskey-like.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, how long if it was aged in whiskey barrels, and it's got that whiskey warmth to it as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, as I said last time, I have finished my glass, right? Now, but I didn't have the 50 mils. Remember that. I do like to nose it once it's empty, right? And the reason being that when the liquid is gone, some of the volatiles, like the oiliness, that stays in there, and you can sometimes get a nicer nose off it. But I mean, it is very, very consistent with what we've been saying in terms of the vanilla, the brown sugar, that caramelized.
And kind of oak, that oaky as well.
Yeah, get a bit of definitely. You're getting an oak. I like this one, right?
I added a wedge of lemon to it and just gave it a bit of a squeeze, and it definitely brings out the citrusy in it. I've added a wedge of lime to it, but I'm starting to get the orange flavors in it now as well. That fruitiness that Anna was talking about.
It would be kind of very, I suppose, very whiskey kind of orientated a bit, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
So there's a couple of comments coming through in the chat. And I see Sam Windrum saying thanks. He said it's kind of toffee-ish. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. It is. It's kind of like that kind of caramelized butter toffee kind of. It's to be honest, for me that one is kind of Moorish. And I'm using words. Sam kind of joked to me the other day. He was talking about some kind of a sketch. It was a sketch where they were talking about I get this and I get that, and it was kind of funny. But yeah, another. So we're gonna move on, right? If hopefully you've got some water with you. If you have water with you. We do encourage hydrating as we go through it, and it just helps clear the palate a little bit. With the rum, it's probably a little bit more important because it gets a little bit stickier. It's a little bit more sugary, right? And it just stays in your palate a little bit longer, right? Okay, so let's move on to number 2. Again, we're going to go with 15 mils, number 2. We're going to have a. Now again, if we look at the color, right, this one is probably the most intense color of the 6, probably the richest color. But we're very slow at times to talk about color because color can come from additives like E150A, which is the caramel colorant, and in particular in whiskey or in particular in rum, the color can come from what they call the dunnage, which is basically what's left over after they have distilled it, what's left in the pot, and they basically add it back in to give it a nice color. So color doesn't necessarily mean it's better or worse, but it's definitely there. Now let's nose this one. This one is, well, Anna, we'll start with you this time. What do you think?
I am a little slow on this one.
Oh, good God. Okay, over the keys.
I was too busy
Definitely getting spiced on this one.
Sorry, before that
There's a lot of comments coming in there. You're getting a toffee.
Yeah.
You're getting a kind of I think you're getting a butterscotch.
I almost got a kind of like a roasted kind of coffee.
There's a really strong honey smell of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of I think it's more sweet. It's a lot more sweeter, I think, than the first one.
Yeah.
On the nose, anyway.
But there is a. We're debating whether this is whiskey or not. No, this is rum. This is rum. They're all rums. They're drinkable. These are good rum. We haven't done with the these are good. There's a touch, right? I mean, there's a little bit, and I'm not going to say earthiness to it, but it's like fresh cut grass to it. Okay, we'll move on. We get a little taste.
Peppery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's hotter than the previous one.
Really warming.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually getting that smoke, that kind of smoky tobacco-y kind of Almost
Yeah.
leathery flavour to it. There's definitely brown sugar in it, though. There's definitely caramel, but it's much hotter, much spicier. So Ian,
There's a lovely spiciness to it, both in terms of heat, that pepperiness that you're getting. You can feel it on the tongue. It's really peppery and zingy, and then you've got that lovely. There's a bit of, you can almost take. I think that's the earthiness maybe as well. It's the earthiness of maybe like cinnamon bark or something like that's coming through.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah,
beautiful
definitely
spice to it.
you was just saying there. You were saying it's actually, even for something that is as kind of has that spice, it is actually quite smooth and quite balanced, which it is. You know,
It's far smoother than the previous one.
yeah.
Even though the flavor is actually more intense, it's far smoother. There's no it's very, very drinkable.
This is
You'd
a
happily
very,
you'd happily sip on that for the evening, you know.
no, again, right, I'm gonna suggest, right, when the glass is, if you got your glass empty, right, give it a little whiff, right, and I'm gonna mention this again because, and the only reason I mention it is this is something that we've been doing a lot of courses over the last 10 months, and one of the noses that we've learned is green grass, and there definitely is green grass in this, right? And we can get it right.
Yeah, the
And
freshness.
yeah, correct. Yeah, and it's kind of when the other aromas are kind of gone out of it, it's still lingering there, and you know that's very, very important. We'll explain why it's important as we go along, or towards the end. So we were asked, was it aged longer? We're not going to. I won't delve into what it is right now, right? But what I will say is that rum is kind of is difficult in terms of age. Whiskey, we have a very defined set of rules. In terms of the age statement on the bottle is actually the youngest age that's been added in or blended in, or the youngest that it is, right? Whereas in rum, it's quite the reverse. It's the oldest that may have been added or blended in. And then, in addition to that, then, rum doesn't necessarily, some will sit in a barrel for a defined period of time, whereas a lot of it will go through the Solero process, whereby the rum is actually mixed. Now, the easiest way of thinking about it is like a reverse pyramid, The youngest on the top, the oldest on the bottom, and as they take from the bottom, they filter it down, right? And for instance, what it means is, Solero process, and as we filter it down, what it means is that, I'm a little disappointed in two. Oh, Jeff is a little disappointed in two, okay. What it means then is that in around 6 years to 10 years, you can potentially have a mixture of rums that are up to 23 years of age, right? So I'm just going to say it's age statements on the rum bottle don't necessarily correlate the way we would understand with whiskey. We sometimes get a bit confused. I found that very hard when we first started doing it. Okay, we'll drive on. Okay, let's go on to number 3. So, mixed consensus on number 2, or mixed emotions on number 2. Some really love it, some really hate it. I don't want to say like Marmite, because Marmite is reminds me of treacle and molasses and all that kind of stuff. But let's not go there. Okay, so we'll take in some water. So we're going to go to number 2. Number 3. Thanks, James.
3.
Number 3.
Massive toffee kind of nose on this.
Straight away, yeah, you're getting
really toffee sweet.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more caramel in this one as well. I think on the nose.
Yeah.
It smells almost like a caramel, like a vanilla caramel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like banoffee pie.
I was just about to say banoffee pie in a glass.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Is it delicious?
Yeah.
Do you remember on a night where you'd be drinking shots and you'd have a butterball?
No, responsible.
The nose up this.
I haven't thought about that in years.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it. It's very toffee-ish.
Yeah, caramel, kind of buttery, kind of. Yeah, you're definitely getting that.
Oh,
Yeah,
This one now, this one is actually by aroma alone, by nose alone. This is actually very Moorish, very
Like
Moorish.
yeah,
when you get one of those coffees with the syrups in it, it's like, it smells like that, a coffee syrup.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
someone actually said they were a maple syrup, kind of a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go and we'll taste it. Let's see if it follows through. So I think immediately it's for me it's smoother but with a longer finish.
Yeah.
It's something. I'm going to say that the taste doesn't literally doesn't follow the nose a little bit, because we were getting that banoffee pie. Now I'm getting more kind of a coffee caramel than a banoffee pie, if that makes sense.
I think you'll get more coffee. Yeah, you'll get more kind of a more vanilla. The banana's kind of gone. I think the banana's only on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need
And
this.
the taste is very sweet at the start, but then the sweetness kind of comes away, and you get the coffee, and you get a little bit of toffee, but it goes into coffee or darker kind of. It's a darker kind of flavor. It's not as sweet. It's nice though.
How about pouring it on crepes? That sounds delicious. This would make a very good syrup.
Yeah.
Coffee puddings.
I may do this.
Now, can I ask, right? Because there's as we let it finish, there's a little bit of tartness to it. That kind of reminds me. I don't know what it reminds me of. I won't say tea. I won't say black tea, because it's right in the middle of the tongue, and for me, either side of my mouth, kind of like puckering. And I get that normally with maybe tannins from tea, tannins from red wine. Sometimes maybe from oaky red wines, you get that kind of. Anyone else getting this right in the middle of the tongue, either side of your cheeks, on the inside of your mouth.
I think there was a comment there where it got treacle. Actually, it was kind of a.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
definitely kind of.
I definitely could see.
You get the tanniny because it does dry the inside of your mouth. It is that kind of tanniny feel.
Yeah.
Like the inside of your lips are definitely dry after it.
Yeah, and normally with the tannins, for me personally, I get it right in the middle of my tongue. Whereas this now is kind of starting in the middle of the tongue and coming out to the inside of my cheeks. It's a little bit different, but it's definitely there. But it's very, very pleasant. I think that has been a very pleasant rum. Number 3 was really delicious.
Yeah.
That's my favorite so far.
That's it.
And we're getting comments in there saying, yeah, it reminds me of tiramisu.
Yeah.
Again, tiramisu with a cocoa powder. Yeah, all of that. It's for me, it's almost like a banoffee pie with a cafe kind of creme kind of finish, maybe. Okay, let's take in some water, okay? Because at this stage, we could get very dehydrated.
Just remember to note, because we're at the end of it, we're going to rank them 1 to 6. So just give a quick, which one you like, which one you don't like. We're going to try and.
So Anna, from a chocolatier's perspective, which is more saleable?
Which rum so far?
Yeah.
I think the first one is one that would work well with a general, like a 40% milk chocolate. It I don't know, I think with the orangey like vanilla flavor, and it was light, I think you could do well with pairing it with a milk chocolate, maybe even a milk chocolate with sea salt. The sea salt would like take away some of the sweetness, and it might change the flavor of how sweet and light the first rum was. So I think that like the older tasting rums, maybe you'd kind of lean more towards the dark chocolate.
So if the guys and girls on the call right now are finishing their rums tomorrow, where will they get your chocolate from?
In Limerick at the moment, there's Rift. I think they still have stock, and the Good Room in Adair has stock. And there's some of the chocolate Easter products are in Habit. I don't know if their stock is still there or not, but
They're selling
yeah, big
fast.
in Limerick. Yeah, and then there'll be more available next week when I go back after Easter.
So we have a question from Ian Collins. Which chocolate? It's Bra chocolate, BRAW. We'll send on a link to the website after this on email. But it's available from Rift coffee. It was there today. I got some today. They definitely have some left. Not a lot, but there's some left. And obviously you can order off the website. And which chocolate? Which of your brands so far would you go with? Go on, tell us which one.
For these, I suppose I do a salted caramel. It's made with Achill Island sea salt. I think that one would go well with the first bar of chocolate, or the first rum, because I think the salt would be quite nice with that. The second one was a bit, I suppose, yeah, maybe like a peanut caramel or something. Again, a little bit salty but sweet, in a milk chocolate. I think in my head, maybe it's just because they're going numerically 1, 2, 3, but I feel like they're getting progressively deeper and darker. So I think that
you're not exactly wrong. We're a little method to our madness, yeah.
Maybe so, yeah. But yeah, the third one definitely feels like it's getting. I would go with the darker chocolate again, or maybe something a bit stronger. Maybe I do a peanut butter and jelly bar, and that's sweet, but it's getting a little bit more heavy, I guess. But yeah, still a milk chocolate. We're still in milk chocolate territory with the rums, I think.
Excellent. And Keith, you're kind of into rum, Keith. Which is
I kind of.
Which is your favorite rum?
I love my favorite would be Ron Methuselah rums. So they're not higher end, they're not low end, they're kind of a mid-range rum.
Yeah.
They tend to have really nice vanilla notes.
Yeah.
And a nice bit of smokiness at the same time. So they're the ones I like. And I kind of love cooking with it as well. Rum is great in desserts. So even I have my menus on my wall here that I'm planning, but when we go back, I'm doing a rum baba, which would be a baba is a very traditional French dessert. It's a little yeast cake and you soak it in a rum syrup. So either 3 or 4 so far, 2 or 3 I'd love to use in a dessert. 1 I just wasn't mad about, but 3 I'd love to use on a plate. Like there's a lovely complexity to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't think one had that.
Rum is quite like it's just like it's very similar to chocolate, I suppose. They both come like chocolate is grown in equatorial regions as well. Similar to rum,
Yeah.
They're both like there's a lot of similarities, and rum it's very good for using with desserts and anything.
Well, it actually is a very interesting point, right? Because rum basically has arisen or has come about as a byproduct of the sugar industry. So if you think in the Caribbean, right, they were harvesting all the sugar cane. They were actually taking the sugar out of it, and what was left over in terms of the molasses was the original rum that was made. So you would have had chocolate, sweet desserts, all that kind of stuff happening around the same time as the same age as rum, which is great. Now, rum has evolved a good bit, right? Because they're now not just using molasses, but they're using the sugarcane juice fresh, as well as, let's say, the crystalline sugarcane juice, which they basically dry off and it holds a little bit longer. So yeah, they go hand in hand, really, like, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go into number 4. So, right, the fourth rum of the tasting. Right, for me, when I was looking at this earlier on as I was pouring it, I was saying it was probably it was the color I would most associate with rum, right? And not a dark rum, but like that golden color. It was quite delicious color. Now I won't draw any more to that, right? But just have a look at the colors as we're going along, and just see what little variance there is, right? Because I know in this one there is no colorant added and there's no dunnage added. So what we're seeing is out of the barrels that it was aged in.
such a strong smell of marzipan or almond. As soon as I started
Almonds,
pouring it,
yeah.
like as soon as I started pouring it, I could smell it from over here. Very almond.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because if we were in the whiskey world, if we were getting almonds, vanilla, marzipan, we'd be associating that with certain types of cask.
Okay.
In terms of aging. Now, I'm going to say rum is slightly different, so we can't draw that association 100%. But it's there's definitely almonds. For me, you know what? Even that little bit of honey going through it, and it's reminding me almost like golden syrup.
It's a real Christmassy smell of this.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah. Okay, let's go into tasting it, right?
There's a clove. There's a kind of, I think the Christmas thing is almost, there's a clove kind of fragrance to it.
It's kind of a woody, more of a woody clove, yeah. I think you should, if we taste it, you're definitely gonna. So as a taste key, yeah, I can get that spice that I would kind of associate with clove. I get a little bit, yeah. I get it, and like Christmas cake. It's fruity, it's sugary, it's sweet. There's a bit of clove in it. I think there's a little bit of toffee in there. Jeff Boyle is saying that he can get a little bit of sherry coming through it. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with it with any of that.
Really fragrant in general.
A bit florally.
What I would say what I would say is that it's not necessarily the nose on this and the palate on it aren't well matched as such, because on the nose we're getting a very strong almondy marzipan aroma. On the palate it seems to be more prominent with the spice, the fruit.
It's just it's spicy and fruity. It's completely different.
That's it, you're getting a kind of a toffee kind of on the palate. Yeah, and this, right? I'm genuinely going to say this is for me very, very drinkable. Very, very drinkable. Ian Collins is saying it's not as nice as 2 and 3. Okay, if we were to compare back, I think 3 was probably the nicest one I've had. But this is definitely a very close.
Not as sweet. It's not as sweet. It's not as sweet as the others, but it's got its own kind of flavor profile that's actually quite good. Like it's the fruity. It's sweet, but it's a fruity kind of sweet. It's not a sugar sweet.
The fruit is kind of staying, and it's a long finish on the fruitiness. It's kind of staying.
Yeah.
As on the back of your tongue. I like Christmas cake, so I kind of like this. I know that sounds. Remind.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, John is saying it reminds me of 1, but a bit sweeter. Yeah, I won't disagree with you, John. I mean, that definitely that little bit of spice was stronger in 1 compared to this. This one is a little bit more prominent in terms of that little bit of clove. Both of them shared a little bit of fruitiness, but I think 1 was more. There was a bit more funk than fruit to 1. If I'm being, but look, it's just me. I think the sugary note is kind of on both of them. And everyone getting the brown sugar on number 1, and this one is it's more kind of a golden syrupy kind of fruity toffee kind of. Yeah. So absolutely delicious. Let's move on to number 5. Let's take in a little bit of water as we go along. Again, we'll have a little look at the color. I mean, again, this, and the reason I'm drawing your attention to the color is just as we go through, right? In all of these, we know, and because we obviously know what they are, there has been no colorants added. So what you're seeing is really what you get, what's been extracted out. And one of the real reasons I'm drawing your attention to the color is I want people to kind of note that the color doesn't necessarily have to do anything to do with age. For these ones, right? So just be mindful of that. So we'll have a little nose of it. This one is definitely is a little bit more subtle than.
It's more like a fresh and like fruit, like a melon or.
I'm kind of getting a kind of a citrusy kind of fruit. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
You're definitely getting a butterscotch. Yeah, you're definitely getting, but it's more kind of a caramel butterscotch kind of. I'm getting the dried fruits on this one. This to me there's a little bit more vanilla in this. I could definitely get that, and I'm wondering is there that kind of sweetness that you're getting from the vanilla. And I'm also going to say there's like a. Someone said it's like toasted or like super glue. It's not like super glue. That's interesting. You're sniffing the wrong. You're on the wrong one. You're on the wrong glass. Go back to number 5. Yeah. So with a comment in terms of the orange peel. Yeah, I would say definitely. Yeah, orange peel. That citrus kind of that zesty is definitely there. But it again, it's a little bit more subtle than the previous one we've just had. It's not as pronounced.
I find this on the nose. I find it quite similar to the first one. I'm not getting anything huge on it. The other ones, there was dominant traits on the nose. But this one, I'm getting that diluted kind of sense to it.
Yeah, there is, right, and you know what, right? I dismissed the super glue comments very quickly there, right, and I'm going to apologise, right? Because as I'm going back to it here, right, I'm actually getting kind of like a little bit of an acetone, maybe ethanol kind of smell off it, that's definitely lingering in it, but I think. If I'm being fair, I probably had to hold it in my hand to warm it up a little bit to get that. But it's definitely there. You know, so you're obviously in a warmer room than me. So let's taste, right? Because I think this could be interesting. Okay, so definitely not as smooth as the one before.
No.
It's I can get I can get a bit of vanilla, a little bit of toffee. There's actually a lot going on in there. There's spice in it. There's a lot of spice there. There's I'm getting banana.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a tropical kind of sweetness, that banana, coconutty kind of.
Yeah, coconut. That's a coconut. I would definitely say that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I've been drinking too many of them now, but the viscosity of it is kind of different as well. The mouthfeel of it feels a little bit more. It just feels a little bit more syrupy in the mouth.
More oily. I wonder, right? Because I mean, as I'm tasting here, and I know that the super glue comment comes to mind again, right? That little bit of acetone, maybe that little bit of ethanol. Is it coming through as we're tasting it? Is that giving you the mouthfeel?
Possibly.
You know, because it's not, because there's two things that are jumping out at me, right? I don't think it's as viscous as the one, maybe the previous 3, because it's just falling off my tongue. But there's definitely an evaporation. There's definitely a volatile going on there. And the easiest way that I can describe that, and it's going to sound really weird, right? It's like a spiky feeling on your tongue. Is what I'm getting. You know, and I don't know if that sounds. It's
on the edges of on both sides.
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Now, someone's asking, is it the youngest of the bunch? We will divulge everything as time goes on. Yeah.
It's definitely sitting there more longer, I think, than the last one. And well, I think than the previous ones. It's sitting longer in your mouth. The feel of it.
I'm going to try.
It's a longer finish, I think. It's a longer finish on it.
I'm going to try something out, right? And I'm not a lover of brandy, right? But it kind of almost gives me that brandy warmness there a little bit, and that's the brandy fit, if that makes sense.
And it stays.
Yeah,
it's staying back here. Like, there's a long.
I think there's a kind of immediate. Well, it's a long finish for me anyway. It's kind of you're definitely getting a couple of minutes. Well, a minute after finished drinking it, you're still getting it.
Yeah, it's reminding me of brandy. I'm convincing myself it's reminding me of brandy. Anyone else getting a brandy kind of a?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this one now.
And actually, if you try the nose of the empty glass, there's a brandy quality to that as well.
I 100%. Yeah, I'm hearing, and a couple of comments coming in basically saying that as it warms up, it's definitely coming through a bit better. I would agree. As I said, when I had it in my hand originally, you know, I wouldn't have agreed with the maybe the solvents aroma, but as it warmed up, it was definitely coming through. You know, and in the empty glass, definitely getting it, and yeah, it really is reminding. The more I'm thinking about it, it's reminding me of brandy. You know, so that's a funny one, right? Because it's a rum that has a kind of a brandy finish. Okay, we'll move it on a bit. We'll take on a little water, and we're going to move on to number 6. It's going to be the last one of the night, and then the fun begins, right? Because then we get to pick what we like and didn't like. So we have some water. Take it on board. So number 6. So I'm going to ask you, right? Because and I'll give you a few minutes, give you a minute or two, because you were kind of you seem to have a nose that's very prominent for citrus and fruit. What do you think of it?
Gosh. I'm not sure. It's like, I feel like it's definitely like orangey, but
What do you think?
it's a darker like smell to it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
For me, I'm definitely getting a bit of pineapple.
Let's give it a second.
Pineapple.
Definitely pineapple at the end of it. When you give it a good sniff, you get that pineapple at the very end.
It is very fruity.
There's a lot of
peachiness to it as well.
There's a lot of fruit in it, Jack.
Would anyone think kind of like grape husk?
Grape.
Yeah. Like in kind of white wine.
Yeah.
I'm laughing now because Emma Langford has joined us she was a guest the last time. She's joined us as a participant. Emma has a fantastic nose, so she's here. She's actually here saying yes, she can get the grape. Thank you, Emma.
I'm actually getting
it's quite dry. It's quite a dry kind of nose compared to the previous ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely. You know,
I'm getting a kind of a nutty kind of. I don't know. Would it be kind of a toasted nut?
I won't disagree with you, but I suppose I'm kind of fixated now on the grape a little bit. But definitely pineapple, definitely kind of a fruity aroma to it. I am getting that grape kind of coming through it. Will we drive on to taste it and see how we get on? So Ian Collins is saying that he loves the long finish on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a. Now I'm going to say something. I know the one previous I was talking about cognac and I was talking about brandy. I'm really getting it off this one.
Yeah.
But I'm also getting a little bit of caramel. I think the peach that you mentioned, Keith, definitely that was a good call. Very good call. What else is in there?
I'm kind of getting a bit of coke in it, actually.
Yeah, I'm getting.
It's very fruity.
To me, it's all stone fruit. I can get apricot, peach,
Yeah,
plum, that kind of.
There's a few fruits in there, like between the nose and the palate. You're
Yeah.
gonna get.
It's a lovely finish to this one though. Like it's quite strong, but it's still smooth at the same time, and it mellows out over the finish. But it's a good finish. Like.
I actually think this is the longest finish out of the 6 of them.
So there's a number of comments coming in. Calvados, cognac, brandy. I can 100%. Yeah, I think it's definitely there. Someone said there's a herb in there that they can't quite get, but it's quite nice. I wondered some grass on the nose.
Yeah, I think it's more grassy than herby. It's that freshness.
There is, I would say, yeah. But even I wonder is the herb, and again I go back to the grape husk. What's left over? You know, is it that kind of?
Yeah.
You know, but look, this one is.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to try and do something now, and we did this the last time, and I made a hands of it, right? Because I asked too many questions, right? So I'm going to launch a poll, right? And I just want people to select which one was their favorite, right? And I'm just going to push it. I'm going to push it up now, so you should see it on your screen now. So if you wouldn't mind, just which one did you like? Which one was your favorite? And we'll see then where we land on it. Now, as I said, we know what they are. So we're about 28 to 35 in there. Keith, tell us about this weekend. What's going on? The Slovenian food and.
Well, yeah. So the first weekend of every month we do a themed menu. So last weekend we did a trip to the Basque Country, and this weekend we're doing a trip to Slovenia. So we go and pick some traditional dishes from there and some regional dishes, and maybe a dish from a restaurant that we really like there, and we just put them together. So you do 3 courses. So this week is Slovenia. So the starters there's a trout dish, because that would be because it's readily available in the rivers over there. Trout would be a big thing over there. And we have a buckwheat risotto with black pudding, because buckwheat is one of the main grains they use over there. And then we have 2 lovely kind of stews for the mains, and they're the traditional kind of side of dishes. And then we have an apple strudel for dessert, because they have a lot of influences from the bordering countries. So the stews are very Balkan. The strudel is Hungarian or Austrian. So all these regional influences come in. So next time out, we're doing Puglia in Italy, right down in the south of Italy.
Nice.
So we're doing that the first weekend in May. But it's just a way of kind of taking people around, because we can't travel anywhere. So we kind of said we'll bring the food to you rather than you having to go there and get the food. But it's good fun. It's enjoyable. So we made lovely fresh cheese today as well. That's a big thing on Slovenian farms. They make their own cheese. So we made cheese in the kitchen over the last few days as well, and put that on the menu too. And it's an opportunity to do things you wouldn't get to do normally in the kitchen, so it's good fun.
Did I see that was there a wine pairing with it as well?
Oh yeah, so our wine supplier Cabot's up in Westport, they actually have a vineyard over there. So they have we've done a wine flight, or you can buy the bottles individually. But they're called Roca. They're beautiful wines. One is a Liebfraumilch, and one was the Riesling. The Riesling is really, really good, but it's quite dry for a Riesling, but it's beautiful, beautiful wine. So I'm kind of looking forward to when I do eventually get over to Slovenia, going to the vineyard and checking in on it and stuff. So they're good people.
Yeah, no, it's exceptionally interesting. Look, I'm going to say we're guilty, right? We were planning on doing it this weekend, but we're going cooking a leg of lamb instead. So it's we said we wouldn't, No, just with the weekend that was in it.
That's what I'm doing myself. I have the barbecue ready to go tomorrow, and there's big leg of lamb going onto it. So.
And do you know what? I'm actually going to say this now. Is going to sound like Cora. My partner is on the call right now, right? And I cleaned out the barbecue today. It hasn't been cleaned in 12 months, right? So I cleaned it out today, and I was saying that if the weather is fine, I'm actually going to barbecue the leg of lamb. If the weather is
That's the
fine.
way to go.
I'm not going out the ranges.
Sure, even if the weather isn't good, still barbecue it.
Okay, so I've just put up the results of the poll. Everyone has seen it. I'm just going to take it down because I just don't want it dominating your screen. Now I'm going to try and share what they were because it's quite interesting, right? The vast majority of people have gone for number 3, followed by number 2, 6, 4, 5, and no one liked number 1.
I'm surprised no one.
Well, I'm a little bit surprised, right? And I want to tell you why, right? We'll get into that next, right? But yeah, poor number 1. Right? I'm going to see if I can share my screen here, and we will see what they are. Okay, let's go. We're getting very good at technology here. So can people see this? Can we see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So sample number 1, right, was the Appleton Estate 12-year-old. Sample number 2 was the Ron Zapaka, the 23-year-old. Number 3 was the Dictator XO, but it's the insolvent version of it. There's 2 versions, insolvent and perpetual. Number 4 was one Keith had mentioned, the Malusalem 23-year-old.
Yeah.
Number 5 was, and did you pick up on that one? Did you?
Yeah, and funnily enough, it was my favorite, but then I tasted number 6, and number 6 took over.
Okay. Number 5 is the Methuselah 15, so it's a little bit younger. And number 6, right? Number 6 is actually the wild card of tonight, right? And we'll get into them all, right? But number 6 is a Saison rum. And number 6, now I'm going to stop sharing. Number 6 doesn't actually come from the Caribbean at all. Right? And we'll get into it, right? So again, number 3, right? Dictator Insolvent. It's a Colombian dark rum. It's 40%. It comes from sugarcane juice, but it's not a rum agricole, right? So a rum agricole is a rum that solely comes from the juice, and the reason it can't be considered a rum agricole is because it goes through the Solera process, right? So it's not a true rum agricole. But you know, as we were kind of going through it, you know, you could definitely get the noses that you'd expect, right? Because it's a 40% rum. It comes out of bourbon and port casks predominantly, and it's a non-age statement. And the reason it's non-age statement, again, because Solera process, but they don't actually tell us how old it is, right? So it's anticipated that it's kind of between 25 and 35 years in around there, right? So it is the, and it's kind of unusual because it is the highest quality rum that we tasted tonight, right? And it is probably the most expensive, hands down. And it's kind of unusual in tastings like this that something like this happens, right? Because it kind of came out hands down as the most favourite. I mean, with this one, right? There are 2 variants of it, right? So you have the Dictator XO, you have the insolvent, and then you have the perpetual. The difference between them is quite simple. The insolvent uses the sugarcane juice, and the perpetual uses the crystal sugarcane or the sugarcane honey, and the perpetual is distilled in a slightly different vessel. So there we go. It's all the nerdiness of it, right? Okay, sample number 2 then was the Ron Zapaka. It's a 23-year-old rum, right? So in essence, it is the oldest rum, or one of the 2 oldest rums that we tasted by label. but it wouldn't be as old as number 3, which was the XO. It's Guatemalan by nature. It's actually owned by Diageo, I think. At this stage, right? So the owners of Guinness, they own it now. It's a really okay. We were getting a lot of different things going in there, right? And probably one of the reasons why is that they use, and actually, sorry, with this one, like, someone had the comment that they could get the sherry from it, right? It uses 3 different types of cask minimum. So you have a sherry cask, you have a port cask, and then they use a bourbon cask in there as well, right? So there's a huge amount of flavors going in there, and that's why, you know, we got flavors like, you know, we think that you got the brown sugar, the caramel, the roasted nuts. We were getting the aromas of kind of the apricots. I mentioned the vanilla. The vanilla will be coming kind of from those bourbon casks potentially, you know. And there's a huge amount going on in there. It's 40% ABV, you know. And again, as I say, it's one that I would have expected to feature well. Number 6. Now I'm going to my cheat sheet because, right, number 6 is right, because I want to get this right. Number 6 actually comes from the Saison family, right? And the Saison family are based in France, and they're in Charente River, right, along the Charente River. They are cognac makers, right? So they make cognac. That's what they do, and they buy in rum from the Caribbean, unaged, and they blend the rum themselves, and then they age the rum or condition the rum in their own bonded houses, you know, for in around 9 months. But they condition it in cognac French Limousine oak barrels. You know, so it's when we were tasting it, right, we were getting a little bit of that cognac from it, a little bit of grape from it. 100%, it's exactly what it's from. This is kind of the I'm about to say the different one. You know, something that we wouldn't necessarily think of, because as soon as we think of rum, we think of the Caribbean, we think of dark rums, we think of all that kind of good stuff, right? And as someone just said, yeah, Celtic Whisky are doing a Saison rum tasting in this month, I think, sometime this month, if people want to check it out. Next one was the Methuselah 23. Keith, definitely one of your favorites.
Yeah.
You know,
like I said, it felt familiar to me, and it was my favorite. And then I tasted number 6, and I love number 6.
Yeah, and what was?
But I wouldn't have guessed that it was French.
But what drove you to think them? What drove you to like number 6 more?
I just finish on it, man. I felt if I was sitting down in front of a fire to sip on something, which is what these rums are about for me, that number 6, the finish was so beautiful, and it wasn't overpowering, it wasn't overly strong, it was just beautiful and smooth finish, and it lasted a bit of time, and there was a lovely balance of sweetness and smokiness and fruitiness, and I really enjoyed it. Like that, it makes me laugh to think it's from France. Like, it's just,
well,
because I like my rum, I've never tasted it before.
But I'm going to say, right, it's because it is blended, right? Like, this is there's a family in France that have over 400 years experience making cognac, right? So they've blended this to be exceptionally good, and then put it into the barrels that they know, which are the cognac barrels. And which one did you like, Anna? Which was your favorite?
My favorite was actually 3, but it was 4 because it was so fragrant. And I thought it was similar to 6, but I felt like 6 was more like, it was almost like it was more like watered down version of 4, if you know what I mean. It just, I'm more of a nose over a taste, and I feel like number 4 was definitely something I'd enjoy to sip on.
And do you know what? It would probably make sense, because, right, number 4 has sat in barrels a lot longer than number 6, right? Mm-hmm. But in saying that, number 4 was, even though we're saying 23 years, probably only set 6 years in a series of barrels, you know, before it came out, right? Whereas number 6 has set minimum 9 months, but probably not much more than that, you know. And it's interesting, right? Okay. Next one then was number 5 was the Methuselah 15. Again, same as the number 4, same as the 23-year-old, exact same manufacturer, just taken out a little bit earlier. Both of them were 40% ABV, so they're not big, they're not high ABVs by any means. And then the last one, which everyone hated, right? And I'm kind of, yeah, I no one actually voted for this one. No one actually liked this one. You know, is the Appleton Estate.
It's the one we sell. It's the one we sell in the bar at One Perry Square.
Yeah, right. But here is what I'm going to say about this, right? This is unique, right? This is because the Appleton Estate is the only one of the 6 rums that has an age statement that we can stand over and that is verified. So it is 12 years in American oak barrels, right? So it has aged for the longest, right? I think it had the highest ABV. I think it's 43%.
Yeah, 43%. Yeah.
But I suppose the only difference between that one and the others,
I suppose it's the raw material that's used, really, isn't it?
because it came from molasses, you know.
Yeah.
So it didn't come from the sugarcane or the sugarcane honey or however some of them describe it, right? But it came from molasses. So I mean, I suppose when the molasses has actually been stripped of the sweetness already, you know, so there's a good portion of the sugar gone out of it. So I'm wondering, was it that it wasn't as sweet as the others? And I know we were kind of saying when we tasted it, there was a little bit more of the barrel spice in it. And when it was actually with the American oak, again, the vanilla that we kind of got in it a little bit as well, you know, but
I suppose because it was the 12 years, it was 12 years in barrel oak, in the American oak, so you were definitely getting that more barrel spice compared to the other 5.
Would they be whiskey barrels?
so I believe they're virgin American oak, right? But they would be the barrels that would be used for American whiskey, right? So they'd be used for bourbon.
Cool.
Whereas
but bourbon would have been aged in them before the rum was, yeah?
No, they'd be
Oh, they're virgin, all right.
barrels, they wouldn't be used at all, right? So like this
All right.
you wouldn't be getting any of the benefit of any of the sweetness of the bourbon or the whiskies. You're basically getting the raw oak and I suppose the bitterness of the raw oak from it. But it was interesting because some of the comments in Rum 1 were it was more like whiskey, right? And it probably is in terms of there's less sugar than the others. It's gone into a virgin oak barrel like you would with a bourbon. And even it was there for 12 years, and flavour-wise, I think you could be mistaken for calling it a bourbon, you know, as you were tasting it, you know. But yeah, quite interesting. Okay, we've kind of come to the end of our bit of it, right? So, is there anyone that wants to ask any questions of myself or the guys or yourselves even? Because if you want to raise your hand virtually on Zoom, let's do that. And we can do our very best. If I can't answer the question, I'll definitely get back to you. Richter rum is also, yeah, okay, yeah. So Diplomatico, so someone said Diplomatico's rum is a lovely rum as well. It is. There is a shortage of Diplomatico rum in the country at the moment for some reason. You know, I was, okay, yeah. Someone is trying to sell, they'll sell number 6 to someone if they want to buy it off them. It's half left.
Well.
Okay, any questions or comments? Other than that, okay, Piff's Coke, yeah, okay. People are talking about Coke, dash of the limes and bitters. Yeah, listen, it really is your rum. You can have whatever you want with it. Yeah. So Trina is saying she'll trade you her remaining 1 for number 6. You can, Alan Gleason, yourself and Trina can sort that out if that's okay. Anything else, guys? Anyone else have any want to ask burning questions? No. I really have nothing left on this one. Rum is a very difficult one to do for us, and probably one of the reasons being is that there are more rums than whiskies out there, but all of the rums kind of follow the same process. All the rums have the same kind of, I won't say in tree. Oh, what is? Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, tree.
What is our favorite?
Which is our favorite?
Yeah.
that now is a very good question. Like that's, come on, I'm gonna let you go first this time, because I always.
Well, for me, actually, it was number 6. I was very surprised with number 6. Now, I would have gone at the very start, even before we tasted them, I would have looked at number 3. Definitely number 3. But as we tasted them, even the other day when we sampled them, definitely number 6, and it was very surprising. And I would definitely go back to number 6 again. It's even just with kind of the long finish, as we were saying, definitely the long finish on it it's definitely a sipping one. And I think that's what you want.
So,
sorry,
it's
Keith.
also interesting that you were saying that the rums generally have the same methods and the same process to make them. So then it's interesting that number 6 is a French rum, and that there will be kind of there's a new method and a new kind of way of doing it, and so I think again, because rum is steeped in the Caribbean, and it is just that process, and it doesn't have it just doesn't have the exposure that whiskey would have. So it is harder. It's harder to find out. It's harder to find information about rum. There's less research done about rum. But like you say, there's as much rum out there as there is whiskey. But it's not a Western European thing either, so it's not as readily kind of available.
Even as we said at the start there, like if you think, and this is I suppose Ireland, not even just Limerick, Ireland. When we think of rum, you're thinking of kind of like the real dark rum, or kind of Captain Morgan or Bacardi. I mean, Sea Dog.
Yeah.
You're like.
Yeah.
Some people will sip Sea Dog, and that's fair enough. I mean, that's what they're into, but most wouldn't. Where any of the 6 here at doing, and they're all sippable rums, like, and they're the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I've got a curve, right? It was devil.
Sea Dog is great if you're making ginger cake. Add it to your ginger cake, and it gives great flavor.
For me, right, I'm going to say, okay, number 1 was actually my favorite, and for a very obscure reason, right? Because it actually did remind me of whiskey, and I know it sounds, but it did, right? I will say that strong finisher after that, right? I would have definitely number 6, right? But I could get that cognac kind of flavor from it. And what was the other one I thought I had cognac from? Oh Jesus, I can't remember. There was another one. No, it wasn't 5. Was it number 4? No, there was another one there. Yeah, there was another one there, and there was definitely
4.
Yeah, it's 4. There was definitely a little bit of brandy, a little bit of cognac finish as well. And yeah, but I was going to go with 1. 1 would have been my choice. 6 would have been a very, very strong follower, because it was, it's a little bit different. It's not what you would have expected. I suppose in terms of rum, and it's going to sound really weird, there are very little rules in terms of rum. Whereas whiskey, we have lots of rules of whiskey, right? How long it has to be aged, how it is to be aged, because you mentioned barrels, right?
Even when it's be aged in, even
yeah.
Depending on what
American whiskey has to be aged in virgin oak. That's it, right? Whereas Irish whiskey, can be aged in wood, can be anything you want, right? Whereas Scotch whiskey, it has to be in used bourbon barrels, so it's really interesting, right? So I mean,
where rum could be aged in a steel container,
and some rum is, right?
Some rum is. There's a lot in the difference, there is a lot.
So we're being asked, will we stock number 6, right? I'm now, Cyril, I'm going to tell you a very honest answer. One of the problems we had when we actually did this selection of rums is that there isn't that much rum in the country, and we used quite a lot of rum, right? So we took the last of number 6, and we took the last of number 4. So that was number 6 was the Saison rum, and number 4 being the Methuselah 23, right? So we took the last supplies that our supplier had, including they had to reach out to other parties to get us more rum in, right? And we only had 4 bottles of each rum, right? So it wasn't that we had a huge amount, but it's just not stocked a lot. So will we stock? I think so. I think what we're discovering is there's more things to life than just the standard whiskey and spirits that we normally go for. You know, rum definitely is one of those things. We'll do our very best to stock 6. I don't know how long that will last or not last. It really all depends on the supply. And with Brexit and shipping and all this kind of stuff, it has affected how things happen, because a lot of the rum that our suppliers will buy in will come in through the UK first and then over here, and it just has made routes a little bit more difficult. Okay, on that note, right, Anna, do you want to say? We want to say a huge thank you to you first, right? You've stepped in out of taking us, pulled us from the jaws of defeat. And come in and helped us hugely. Without even, do you know what? You didn't have to be forced or asked too much either. You've come on here very much of your own.
I just think it's interesting I don't know anything about rum, but I love learning about all the different flavors of things. It's quite interesting. It's really complex a thing, like, so I've been taking notes here, like a class.
Do we expect to see a rum-based chocolate soon from you?
Possibly now. I've got the whole summer. The summer is like the quiet time in the chocolate world. So
we talk off camera. We talk off camera.
Yeah. So then I think we should stock 6. As soon as, do you know what I'm going to say is, we're going to start building the supply up right now. We probably won't be up for a couple of months. We'll see how much of it we can get in, and we'll have a bit of crack. Keith, again, right? We know Keith a long time, right? Keith is a huge advocate for food, drinks, you know, the whole flavour and exposure and experience kind of, you know, and is one of the driving forces, amongst others, behind Pigtown Festival, you know. And I suppose, like, he's recently, is it 12 months ago or about a year and a half ago, you moved into Perry 1?
12 months ago. 12 months ago.
12 months
Lockdown
ago.
1.
Yeah. So moved into a new role, you know, the week that they were locked down.
March the 20th. March the 20th.
You know, and unfortunately, right, I would imagine did a huge amount of work with new menus and all that planning and stuff to not really be reopened per se, or to be open very limited since. So I think we're watching with bated breath to see what the hell you do there, because, you know, we have great expectations from what's going to go on, you know. And if ever you need to buy rum from someone, it looks like we're going to have a lot of number 6 by the time. Okay, so on that note, if no one has any other questions, we're going to call it an evening. It's been quite enjoyable again. It's been a different evening compared to the whiskey evening. You know, I think we've been a little bit more theoretical on this one than the whiskey. But like rum is a little bit more of a difficult topic to cover. We have been asked what is coming next. I'm about to say, right, we're going to flip a coin tomorrow.
We're still debating.
We're going to flip a coin tomorrow, right? So originally we were looking at doing a tequila mezcal tasting. The number of mezcals we can actually get in the country at the moment is quite low, and the tequilas we can get wouldn't be exactly what we'd want. So it's more that they're brought in to be used for mixing in cocktails rather than sipping. So we're going to keep looking at that. We've been asked to do a gin one, so a gin blind tasting. We probably will. You know, James is shaking his head.
Philly will do the gin tasting area.
I can 100% say, right, we're definitely going to do a brandy, cognac, Calvados, Armagnac tasting. It's going to be in around that in the very near future. But I will say we have in recent weeks, in recent days, gotten access to certain whiskies, and I'm going to say pre-whiskey, that we were probably going to do blind tasting on, i.e. the stuff that's in the barrel, in the cask. That's only, you only get the sample if you own it. So that's going to come down the road as well. Someone has asked, would we do craft cider? There's two things I will not drink, right? I'm going to say there's one thing I will not drink, and that's cider. And then there's one thing I cannot drink because I physically feel ill from it, and that is gin. And that is why we're debating the gin, because I can't do the gin, right? I physically can't do it. I just can't drink gin. So we'll see how James wants to take that one.
We'll see.
So look, on that note, folks, right? The copy of this recording will go on YouTube after I edit out some of the stuff that I might have said that we shouldn't have put in, and it'll be available to review. I would just like to say, on a final note, thank you to everyone that joined us. We very much appreciate your support. We very much appreciate your time. Thank you to Anna. Please go buy some chocolate from her. And thank you to Keith. You'll see a lot from Keith as time goes by and it opens up. But keep an eye out for the events that they do. There's been good feedback thus far on them. And we're just disappointed we're not going to do it this time, but we're doing a leg of lamb instead. And just while we're here, Noel O'Connor, fabulous leg of lamb, right? On that note, folks, thank you. And as guys and girls that know me would say, Shante, have a good night.
Thanks.
Night, guys. Night, guys.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.